Hi, I'm Marc, and welcome to the weekly Outside Views report on British politics. After the agreement with the EU on new Brexit rules for Northern Ireland, the UK's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak sought local support. The deal, reached on Monday, aims to end a years-long dispute between the EU and the UK and ease trade between Northern Ireland and the rest of the kingdom. But much depends on whether the agreement will appeal to the DUP party in Northern Ireland. Supporters of Northern Ireland's union with Great Britain have been blocking the formation of a government in this region for months in protest at the previous regulations. If the agreement, dubbed the Windsor Framework, goes ahead, Northern Ireland has a chance to become the most exciting economic zone in the world, with unimpeded access to both the UK and European economies. That's what Sunak said while visiting a coke factory in Northern Ireland County Antrim. His spokesman later felt compelled to clarify that this was not criticism of Brexit. Before leaving the EU, not only Northern Ireland, but the whole of the UK had this exciting free access to both markets. Well, speaking on the BBC, DUP leader Geoffrey Donaldson praised the negotiated mechanism that would give Northern Ireland a veto over the role of EU law in its own market. However, his party will now examine the contract in detail. I hope so, because he totally misunderstood it. A spokesman for Sunak said the DUP was not given a deadline for a decision. It's also important for Sunak that the Brexit hardliners in his own party do not block the agreement. Ex-Prime Minister Boris Johnson initially did not comment. The London Times reported, citing circles close to Johnson, that he first wanted to study the government's proposals and think about them. That would be a news thing. Sunak had announced in the lower house that there should be a vote on the agreement, but there is no date for this yet, but people talk about the week after next. Sunak received praise from an important critic from his own ranks. Northern Ireland Secretary of State Steve Baker spoke of a great result. The former chairman of the so-called European Research Group, a coalition of Brexit fanatics in the Tory party, was even relieved about the agreement. At the beginning of the corona pandemic, the British government apparently considered killing all domestic cats. Conservative politician James Bethell told Channel 4 News. In fact, there was an idea for a moment that we needed to ask the public to eradicate all cats in Britain. Can you imagine what would have happened if we had done that, he said. When the pandemic broke out in 2020, very little was known about the disease. There was a moment when we were very unclear about whether pets could transmit the disease, Bethell said. Bethell, a member of the House of Lords, served as Deputy Secretary to then Health Secretary Matt Hancock at the Department of Health in 2020 and 2021. According to Britain's PA news agency, he said there had been some evidence for a while that should have been investigated. According to The Guardian, cat owners were warned in July 2020 not to kiss their pets. It had previously become known that a Siamese cat was the first known animal in the UK to be infected with the disease. Margaret Hosey, professor of comparative virology at the University of Glasgow, advised cat owners at the time to pay close attention to hygiene, as The Guardian reported. In England, one cat in particular enjoys cult status. Cat Larry has resided in Downing Street, the seat of government, for more than 12 years as the top mouse catcher in the United Kingdom. On his satirical account on Twitter, which mostly mockingly comments on political events in the name of the tomcat, a reaction promptly followed on Wednesday evening. It's difficult not to take that personally, it said there, with a view to Bethell's statement that the killing of the cats had been considered. In fact, according to a study published in June 22, the coronavirus can probably be transmitted from cats to humans. Scientists described a case in Thailand in which a veterinarian contracted the virus in August 21. She had treated and sneezed on a cat that had tested positive in the southern Thai city of Songkhla. Or she sneezed on, I guess, must have been that. However, scientists emphasize that the virus is transmitted significantly more frequently from humans to cats than in the opposite direction. In Denmark, millions of mink were killed during the pandemic due to concerns about transmission of the disease. There are serious allegations that the British Telegraph, in a comprehensive investigative report entitled The Lockdown Files, based on more than 100,000 leaked WhatsApp messages against the former British Minister of Health, Matt Hancock, and they raised them. At the beginning of the pandemic in spring 2020, he is said to have repeatedly rejected the advice of his staff and external consultants with regard to the test strategy in nursing homes, and he just ran his own course. Care homes eventually became the UK's biggest COVID hotspot, with more than 40,000 deaths. But that's not the only accusation. Hancock is said to have only made his announcement that more than 100,000 COVID tests would be possible per day by the end of April 2020 with the help of tricks. The number was ultimately never reached, unlike Hancock proudly announced at a press conference at the time. Even before the revelations, Hancock had hardly left a blunder. He resigned in June 21 after an affair between him and a high-ranking employee became public. Photos documented a meeting between the two, which also violated the strict lockdown in Great Britain at the time. Then, in November, he took part in the latest season of the UK part of the reality show I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. The ex-health minister voluntarily handed over the data carrier along with all his WhatsApp messages to the British journalist Isabel Oakeshott in the summer of 21. She used the chats to co-write Hancock's memoir, Pandemic Diaries, which was released last December. Now, Oakeshott herself made the unpublished chats available to the Telegraph. Sentiment in British industry brightened in February. The corresponding Purchasing Managers Index from S&P Global rose by 2.3 points to 49.3 points compared to the previous month, as S&P Global announced on Wednesday in London after a second estimate. The first estimate of 49.2 points was thus revised slightly upwards. The indicator reached its highest level in 7 months. Despite the increase, the indicator is still below the expansion threshold of 50 points. That readings below indicate that there's a contraction in economic activity. UK manufacturing showed encouraging signs in February, said Rob Dobson, director at S&P Global Market Intelligence. Among other things, he referred to reduced supply chain problems. This partially compensates for the impact of strikes, the cost of living crisis, and lower order intake. The British Armed Forces appear to intend to procure up to 600 FGM-148F Javelin anti-tank guided missiles, according to recent publications by the Defense Security Cooperation Agency, an agency of the US Department of Defense. Accordingly, the US State Department has approved the sale of the systems and an unspecified logistics and support package with a total value of $125.13 million US dollars. The US Congress still has to approve the purchase of the guided missiles. Only after this approval can the buyer and the industry negotiate the final details, including the actual price. The Javelin missile can operate day or night in all weather conditions and proved its effectiveness during the war in Ukraine. The F version of the Javelin is the system's 6th performance upgrade. A new multi-purpose warhead with pre-fragmented fragments and shaped charges can be used successfully against conventional and reactive armor and against lightly armored and unarmored targets. The range is given as around 4,000 meters. Hundreds of sex offenders have disappeared from police radar in Britain, a BBC investigation has found. Between 2019 and 2021 alone, 729 perpetrators were missing or wanted. That's what the public broadcaster reported on Wednesday, citing data from the police authorities. The main reason is legal name changes, as a result of which The criminals have disappeared from the radar of the authorities. That was said by MP Sarah Champion from the opposition Labour Party. However, the authorities informed almost 1,500 people about a name change. The British House of Commons is scheduled to discuss legislation banning sex offenders from changing their names today when I'm filming this. The current notification system is obviously not working, Champion said. The sheer scale of the violations and disappearances of sex offenders is a scandal that the public is unaware of. The existing laws are too lax since it's up to the perpetrators to report changes. Champion criticized the facts that convicts could use new documents to apply for jobs in schools, kindergartens or youth clubs, for example, without revealing their past. The MP represents the Rotherham constituency in northern England, where at least 1,400 children were sexually abused between 1997 and 2013. Unlike the government, British vegetable and fruit producers are warning of a protracted situation given supply problems for some foods. Tomatoes, peppers and aubergines will not be available in bulk until May, so it will take longer than a couple of weeks. That was said by Lee Stiles of the Lea Valley Growers Association, and he told this to the BBC. Conservative Agriculture Minister Therese Coffey announced last week that the bottlenecks could be overcome in 2 to 4 weeks. Great Britain imports around 95% of tomatoes in winter. However, according to the LVGA, it only receives a quarter of the products that were ordered in Spain or Morocco. The main reason would be the extremely bad weather in the growing areas. Added to this are increased transport costs due to high energy prices. That's why producers would prefer to deliver to closer markets. It is too late for the British producers to make up for the shortage. They should have planted earlier for that, says Stiles, but who would have harvested it? Several retailers, including market leader Tesco, have rationed the sale of some products such as tomatoes or cucumbers because of the delivery difficulties. Instead of tomatoes and lettuce, the British should appreciate local specialities, as Minister Coffey demanded, because she said a lot of people are currently eating turnips. Let them eat turnips, headlined the Daily Mirror newspaper, based on that quote that put in the mouth of France's Queen Marie Antoinette, if they don't have bread, they should eat cake. But just one reason of many. Lining referred to Germany because there are no bottlenecks there, as German retailers recently confirmed in a survey by the DPA news agency. And we have full shelves here everywhere. And industry experts accuse the British government of misguided policies. For example, they excluded vegetable producers from energy subsidies despite rising electricity and gas prices after the start of the Russian war of aggression against Ukraine. The use of greenhouses to grow tomatoes, for example, is therefore no longer worthwhile in winter. They don't plant as many things there anymore because it's uneconomical. And that was said by Adam Leland, the editor-in-chief of the industry journal The Grocer. And he told the BBC food prices in the Eurozone have risen even more, and the bottlenecks have nothing to do with Brexit. Well, experts have a very different opinion here. For example, British producers lack the seasonal workers who would otherwise come from EU countries such as Romania, for example, to pick. And the reason for this is stricter rules for workers after leaving the EU. And still existing paperwork we're delivering to Britain. So here in Germany, we definitely have no trouble with any food. And in Britain, we hear also that's not only tomatoes and cucumbers, but now they're even discussing apples and pears because of the missing harvesting people. Brexit is a gift that keeps on giving. But we started with Brexit, we ended with Brexit. This concludes this week's video on British politics. I'll see you in my video tomorrow. I'll be back.